Greetings, programs, and welcome to Q&D number 9. Q&D, by the way, I do get asked about this sometimes. It was a thought I had that it would be amusing to sort of play on Q&A, because Q&D could mean quick and dirty, except they're usually not particularly dirty and they're usually not particularly quick, so that title in retrospect is seeming a bit silly. Anyway, this is going to be a no webcam edition because I've misplaced it. And I thought, rather than put off recording this episode any longer, which I've been recording the bits over the course of the last week, I decided just to go ahead and sit down with the microphone and Audacity and bash it out anyway. So if you're not aware, this series is where I sit down and try and answer some viewer questions, and it's not particularly frequent, so you might not be seeing another one for another couple of months. There is actually a special playlist you can go and check out for all the previous editions as well. So, mingles with the jingles it is not, but I feel like it's nice to have something where I can interact directly, well, indirectly, with the viewers. So we're going to start off with a shouty question from Dasquid352, who says, what would I think about a Clan Wars game mode where two teams of AMX-40s had to fight each other? I would very much like to see that. That actually might get me interested in Clan Wars, I have to say. If there was an AMX-40 only game mode, that would be a big thumbs up for me. My name is Puffs asks, am I watching QB and jingles on the WGL stream? Well, that's a little bit out of date. Let's just ignore that bit. If you could be one person from history, who would it be? That's a much more... Well, that's a timeless question, really. That's a question that's good for any time at all. And the answer is Superman, because you made no specifications there whatsoever. So, yes, I would be able to like to fly around and shoot lasers out of my eyes, because who wouldn't? I mean, obviously there's a slight kryptonite problem, but otherwise, you know, Superman, why not? Dunboob asks, have you ever thought, about those predictable movie, I'm guessing he means plot twists, where the villain turns out to be the alter ego of the protagonist? I'm hinting at Caption Guy right here. I don't... No, I've never... No, never thought of that. I don't know where you'd get an idea like that. I mean, that's a bit crazy, to be honest. I know there's all kinds of weird conspiracy theories about Caption Guy, but I don't know. That's definitely one of the weirder ones, the thought that me and Caption Guy might be the same person. That's like, yeah, that's a bit too far out, man. Just a bit too far out. The Icy Hawk asks, will there be any merchandise in the near future? I have thought about it. I've had the notion that... I mean, t-shirts are the obvious thing, but obviously there's other things you can do as well. But I haven't really investigated, to be honest, because I think there's maybe a few people that would maybe like a t-shirt or whatever else. And bear in mind, I have no graphical designing skills whatsoever, so it would probably be some boring text on something, or I don't know, or else I'd ask somebody else to draw something for me. I don't know. So it's a possibility, but I'm thinking maybe in the future, not the near future, but maybe further off in the future, because I mean, I've got a decent number of subscribers and a decent number of viewers, but I don't think there's enough there yet. I think you need to be with a kind of a business hat on. That you need to have at least a certain minimum number of people that you think would buy t-shirts or whatever for it to be worthwhile. So yeah, and Jingles did it relatively late in the day, and I probably wouldn't wait as long as Jingles waited, but I'm not near that point yet with my subscriber base anyway. Emperor Nefarious asks, have I got an opinion about the rumoured changes to the Churchill gun carrier? Now this was actually going back a bit, and this is 3 months ago. No new information's come out about it, but basically the idea that was floated in I think it was one of Storm's Q&A answers, one of the World of Tanks devs, that they would remove the top gun, which is it's a pretty good tank destroyer gun for tier 6. It's just a pity about the machine it's attached to, but they would remove the top gun and drop it to tier 5. And actually it has had some buffs in the meantime. It had its gun handling stats buffed, which it badly needed, because one of the big problems with the CGC is that you're constantly turning the thing because of the horrendously narrow gun traverse range, and that meant that you were, even though the aim time wasn't in of itself terrible, it's that it was a constant issue with always having to re-aim because you were always having to turn the machine. And the ARL V39, exactly the same issue, and it also got some buffs to its gun handling, but even so, I don't think either of them are still particularly popular machines. So, maybe ultimately they might drop it down to tier 5. I think they're going to wait and see, and there are... Well, balancing in this game is an ongoing issue, and I'm still waiting for my AMX-40 new top turret, goddammit. That was a thing that was supposed to be happening as well, and hasn't. So, who knows? We'll see. Geras Patagus asks, why don't I have a beard? And he says he thinks that one would kind of suit me. Well, and this is the point where a webcam would actually be kind of useful, because I could kind of indicate on my face. I've got a weird sort of growth, beard growth pattern. Like, it doesn't... It's hard to really describe without kind of showing you, but it would be a neck beard, basically. It would not look good. I don't get any beard growth on my cheeks at all. It's all down on the neck. And it wouldn't look so good. I mean, I could just do, like, around the mouth. I could do that kind of a beard rather than the full whack, but I'm not convinced, to be honest. I prefer clean shaven, and I always have, so maybe at some point in the future I'll suddenly wake up one day and go, I'll grow a beard. But for now, I'm just going to remain clean shaven and leave it at that, even though I know that does frequently make me the odd one out on the stream. Urban Tarzan asks, what's my vision of a perfect life? Well, we're going back to the Superman question here, aren't we, really? But he's, I think he's got more in mind that kind of, like, I don't know, life goals and, you know, big things. Or another example he gives is, what could you be doing for a living? Well, actually, since I launched on Patreon, which I think I was talking about in the last episode of Q&D, or at least contemplating it at that point, I'm actually... In some respects, I'm kind of there. I mean, I'm now self-employed doing YouTube, and it is, it's not just the YouTube money, because that would not be enough on its own. I did a whole video on that. It's Patreon that has allowed me to take this step, and I think there's a question about Patreon later on, so I'll go into more detail there. But, yeah, no, I'm making videos for YouTube, and it's work, it's definitely work, but it's stuff I like doing, and it's not something I ever thought I'd be doing, but here I am. And I've talked in the past about Asperger's and how I'm not the best communicator in the world, which does occasionally become an issue in videos. But if you had said to me, you're going to be, you know, doing videos that thousands of people will watch, and people will want to come and meet you at Tank Fest, and you'll be going as an official guests of Wargaming, I would have just laughed in your face. But so I'm kind of, you know, at least in the on the what do I want to be doing front, I'm kind of already there, which is, it's quite nice to be able to say that, really. But it's not like it's not also work at the same time. So yeah, that's a sort of answer to that question, I think. And here we go. This is actually the very next question that was asked about Patreon. This is Luke Bunyip, and he just says feedback on the Patreon funding. Well, it's been going all right, and there will be. In fact, I've been putting since Patreon launched. There's a link basically under every video. What I have been doing, and I haven't really publicised this, which I kind of made it as an on-the-fly decision. But what I was doing previously was putting up kind of wallpaper-sized a selection of the stills from the end of World of Tanks videos up on my Facebook page, but the thing is, Facebook really mangles the quality. So what I was then doing, which was an extra annoying step, was also uploading them to Imgur and then putting a link to the Facebook photos. And Imgur only, with your account, with a free account anyway, only lets you have so many. So what I've started doing is putting them on my Patreon page instead, and I've not... Patreon lets you set... you can kind of set levels of viewability, and I basically put the wallpaper so that everyone can see the wallpaper. So even if you're not supporting me on Patreon, you can still go to the page and you can still see the wallpapers I'm uploading, and occasionally I'll post bits of news there, but most of that stuff goes on Facebook anyway. The kind of, if there's stuff that's happened, you know, Facebook or Twitter's probably the first place you should check. But on the whole, I think it's been going quite well. I thought there'd be way more people that would want to take the the slots, because I've segregated it out by level, and I've seen people with Patreon pages that make it really complicated, so I went with just 3. I went with a kind of a basic, I want to support you, here's a couple of dollars, in lieu of a Twitch subscription, because obviously I don't stream. And the next one up is a kind of a slightly higher with the reward of the Patreon supporter videos that I've been doing. You probably have noticed those, and I've actually that's the one where I thought, excuse the crinkling, that's the one I thought would be fairly popular. But as it turned out, the one that there's actually been the most demand for, even though it's a much smaller number of slots, is the option to play with me personally. So, suck it, Caption Guy. At least somebody wants to spend time in my company. Yeah, I'm sure he's flashed up a Forever Alone, whatever on the screen because he's a jerk like that. But yeah, no, that did surprise me because it's one of those things. I've not talked about it that much, but I put it at $75, and I initially thought, is that too high? Is it too low? I don't know. And I think it's kind of worked out all right. I mean, it's been that there have been enough of people across the board that I have, where I live, now enough money to live on just from YouTube and Patreon, mostly Patreon, because YouTube doesn't pay that much. I've said that already. But it surprised me. I didn't expect it to go to the level it has, and I thought it was a bit of an experiment. It was a bit of a shot in the dark, because I thought, worst case scenario, I try it out, it doesn't work, I have to go back on job seekers allowance and start searching for work again. Well, basically be in the situation I was for kind of 2+ years. But it's working out so far, and I hope that I keep doing the things that people like to see me do, because there's I'm kind of I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. I'm kind of I have a responsibility now that I didn't have before, because before it was just kind of a hobby, if you see what I mean. But now it's my actual job, so I'm trying to be conscious of keeping the quality up. I'm sure I can just imagine the comments now. Captain Guy, yes, quality, haha, everybody laugh. But yeah, I feel like it's launching on that. It's not just been, hey, give me money. It's been I've now got to think a bit more carefully about what I'm doing as well. And hopefully it seems like I have been, or at least it seems like I haven't just been blundering around totally not knowing what I'm doing, which I totally have been, let's be honest. Anyway, next question. Eric Olsvik asks, what do we have to do to get an AMX40 with BL10? Eric, if I knew, I would tell you. I may have tried to persuade various members of Wargaming staff at TankFest, but I sadly could not comment on the peals of laughter that may or may not have followed, but totally didn't, because it's a totally serious suggestion, right? But no, sadly, I don't think that one is ever going to happen. Which is just, yeah, I know, it's sad, isn't it? Jay Vernon says, well, it's not really, it's just a comment, it's not a question, but I'm going to read it out anyway. You sounded a bit weak, like you couldn't leave the house, if I'm honest, but you seem cool. Oh, thanks, man, thanks. I can leave the house, it's just I choose not to. That's totally better, right? Outside is overrated, we all know this. Patrick Trombley asks, if I had to fight Caption Guy with a World of Tanks vehicle in real life, which one would it be? Well, that's a tough question, because I feel like with how things are in World of Tanks, there's no kind of perfect all-rounder, because if I said a mouse, he'd pick something with a BL10 or an artillery or something like that. So I don't know. It would have to be maybe something small and fast would be better. Maybe a Panzer 1C would be better. And yes, there's things you could take to then counter a Panzer 1C, but I don't know. This is a tough question. He'd always find some way to outdo me. So at that point, it would just come down to skill. And I'm such a good player of World of Tanks. I'm so good that I would definitely take him every time. Definitely. Totally. Well, you've never seen Caption Guy's World of Tanks stats, so I'm just saying I could be better than him. You would just, I think we'll just assume that, because if he's got an account, he's not shared it with us. So just saying, Caption Guy, calling you out. Yeah, that never goes well. Oh, yeah, my pillow's going to be full of bees again, isn't it? Oh well. Latico Mafia asks, oh, this is a silly question. Why are you sad? Is it the fact I haven't proposed to you for a long time? Well, if you're new here, yeah, there was a thing a while back where Mr. Latico Mafia here repeatedly proposed to me, and I maybe didn't take it too seriously because, well, proposals on the internet, yeah. But on the other hand, I do believe he's Finnish. Maybe it would be a good way to blag my way into the socialist utopian paradise that is Finland. That's totally right? So, yeah, I don't know. If I ever totally lose my marbles, Latico Mafia, and you happen to ask at exactly the right moment, who knows? But yeah, anyway. IMC Dundee actually points out a mistake Caption Guy made in the last video. He does make them occasionally. He's not infallible. I do like to remind people of this fact. He said something about Sharp having a musket, and apparently it's a baker's rifle. So there you go, Caption Guy. How dare you not know your weapons that were used in Crimea? Just, how dare you? Just hang your head in shame, sir. Following on from that, we have Bogley asking, how can I support you, Caption Guy? To which I would counter ask, why would you want to? Have you not seen him in action? Have you not comprehended his devious evilness? Why would you want to support him? Why would you want to enable him to be more powerful? I don't know. Some people just want to watch the world burn, apparently. I'm probably going to pronounce this name wrong, but whatever. We're going to have a go anyway. Negatescu Valentin asks, what did I study and what was my preferred subject? And, well, he asks two questions. He says, also, is there any movie or book that really made a change about you that I'm guessing was kind of a life-changing book or film? Well, for the first one, I've been to the local college on the island, which is actually now part of the University of the Highlands and Islands, which has got, it's kind of it's spread all around the Highlands, and they've got sort of constituent colleges from Inverness up to the Orkneys and here and various places, so it's a bit spread out. But yeah, I went to do a computer-based course there. It wasn't actually the course I wanted to do. It was kind of the next closest thing, because the course I wanted to do didn't have enough people signing up for it that year, so that was a bit of a wash in that regard. But it was alright, although I wasn't that impressed by the quality of the materials. For instance, one of the textbooks, and I swear this is true, this was a textbook that was, teaching you the basics of how to code a web page. And we learned some terrible stuff there, by the way. It was like, here's all these deprecated HTML tags that nobody uses anymore, and this is how you use them. Okay. And not a mention of CSS. CSS wasn't even in the textbooks at all. It was ridiculous. But the thing that got me was a section on one page that said, making sure your pages work in all browsers is really hard, so just make sure they work in Internet Explorer. And it was at that point I was like, okay, I'm not going to take this particularly seriously anymore. So, yeah, I mean, it was alright. I made some friends. I was on the student association. But in terms of the actual course I was on, the qualification I got out of it, I don't think it was really worth very much. But I got a bursary for being there, so it wasn't a total waste of time, and it was actually while I was still working as well. So I was working part-time, I was at the college the rest of the time, so that was probably the last period, actually, before the present, where I had a kind of reliable income that was actually enough that it was A, comfortable to live on, and B, there was enough left over that I could even save a little bit as well. And that hasn't really been the case since, and I'm back to A with Patreon. I've got enough to just about comfortably live on, but not really to set any aside. So yeah, I don't know. That was a funny period, really. It was enjoyable being at college, but at the same time I knew it was a bit of a waste of time in some ways. And as for the second question, I honestly can't think of any book or film that just kind of was so utterly life-changing. Like, there's been a lot of really good ones that have stuck with me. Probably, like, I could just spend a whole episode listing books and films, and wouldn't that be boring? But I honestly can't think of any, no. I mean, there might have been some early sci-fi book that I read that was just like, this is amazing, I'm now going to read nothing but science fiction for the next 5 years. But if there was, I honestly can't remember what it was. So, yeah, sorry, I couldn't really give a better answer for that particular question. Following on from sci-fi, we have Robert Charlson asking, as I like sci-fi, have I read or am I familiar with the Safehold series by David Webber? Well, I know of David Webber, and I'm pretty sure I've read... was it David Webber that wrote the Honor... Oh, God, I hate saying that... Honor Harrington, or however you want to say it, Honor Harrington. It just sounds so awkward, but basically it is Hornblower in space, and I've read the first couple, and apparently the first couple are the good ones, and then some of the later ones are just kind of like bleh. So I probably read the only decent ones, but apart from that, no, I haven't read any of his other works, unfortunately. There's all these authors that I'm kind of like, I know the names of, and I've never actually read, but I've just, I don't know, it's just so many books and so little time, man. I mean, this is there's nothing to do with any of the questions, but we're on the subject of sci-fi, so why not? I have been rereading the Foundation and Empire trilogy by Isaac Asimov. I think I mentioned this in a fairly recent video, actually, but I've basically, only a couple of days ago, just finished. I just ploughed through them, and I was a bit kind of, because I read them a very long time ago. And it's one of these things where you think, will the nostalgia hold up? And they're still pretty good. They still are pretty solid stories, and there's some elements of them that seem a bit clunky these days. And some of it you have to definitely do a bit of suspension of disbelief with. But despite the fact that it does come across as being very 50s sci-fi, there's still some very interesting concepts in there. And apparently HBO has picked up the option to do a series based on the Foundation book, so actually that could be pretty good. But I have been teased with this kind of thing before. Sci-Fi Channel a couple of years ago announced they were going to do, I think it was either the full Mars trilogy or just Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson, and this kind of floated around for about a year and a half, and then it just apparently died. So I was a bit sad about that, but it's fine because they've made Sharknado, is it 2, 3? I don't know, but yeah, that channel just gave up any pretense a while ago of actually being science fiction. So yeah, I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but the fact that it's HBO means that if it does come to our screens, it's probably going to be quite good. And sometimes these things, I mean, the Sci-Fi Channel adaptation of Dune was actually pretty decent. Some of these things, sometimes these things are surprisingly well done. Other times they bear very little relation to what they're supposed to be based on at all. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that it doesn't mess around with the original too much, but that it maybe makes some of the necessary narrative changes. Bottom of the Cup asks what mods I'd like to see in World of Warships, or would I like to see it stay all natural and mod free? Well, there are actually now mods, and you'll have seen in the most recent 2 videos it'll be, as of recording this, that the only real difference you can see is in the minimap, and I've basically used Aslane's mod installer, and I've just gone with the minimap. And there's a whole raft of options with Aslane's, but it's very, very straightforward to use. It's probably even easier to, like, it's basically an installer with checkboxes, and you check the things you like, or like the look of, and it's pretty easy to uninstall them as well. So yeah, if you play World of Warships, I would recommend that. I just went for the minimap mod, which gives the names on the minimap and I think permanent traces, just like World of Tanks now does. So it's basically, I just want the information that I get in World of Tanks with the minimap, and that was enough for me. There's not really any others I can think of, any serious deficiencies of things that mods could maybe fill the gap of. Things like, well, actually, having said that, stuff like the damage counters that you can get for World of Tanks through XVM. If you could have something like that, that would be nice, but it's not essential by any means. So yeah, like the mini-map is enough, I think, but maybe stuff like the damage counter and the garage stats, maybe that would be nice as well. But yeah, anyway, so there you go. Next, George Bingham asks, when am I going to do more tank reviews? And you'll notice I've kind of moved away from doing full-blown tank reviews. I honestly feel like I don't know the game well enough, and this may be just a confidence issue, maybe, but I feel like there aren't that many tanks where I'm actually good enough at them to render anything like an authoritative opinion. And I have done reviews on probably most of them. I mean, I did a two-part review on the mouse, for crying out loud, but for the most part, for most tanks, I just kind of wing it, and sometimes I do stuff and I get away with it. I think was that because it was good tactics, or was that just luck? You know, I'm probably never going to be purple in this game, but my main goal with this channel has always been to be entertaining anyway. And if I give opinions on tanks and I say, you know, they're good at this or they're bad at this, then I almost feel like it's more valuable doing that in at least for me, with my kind of level of knowledge of tanks, of doing that just through regular replays. And I do often, when I'm doing a replay of a particular tank, I'll talk about it's, you know, they're doing this and that's a good idea in this tank because that sort of thing. And if you really want to know things like armor layouts, like effective armor, weak spots, all that kind of thing, well, there's loads of options these days. Well, I say loads, there's a few, and they're free. Either Tanks GG, which is a pretty useful website. There's stuff like What Compare or Tank Compare, whatever it is, for directly comparing two tank stats. Plenty of places like the subreddit, What Labs. There's even the official forums if you can wade through the mountains of spam posts and whatever. So there's plenty of resources out there for finding out specific things, and I don't know, I feel like it's just the time involved in doing a full-blown review versus my kind of level of skill and knowledge of the game. I feel like there are way better people out there that are doing reviews than I am, so that's another big reason as well. So hopefully that all made sense. That's not just, oh my god, it's too much hard work and I'm not going to do it. Hopefully it doesn't seem like that, because that's not my reason for doing it. It's just I think there's better quality information out there than I can give. Akina, well, I'm not even going to... Wotoguf, we'll go with that. What's my preferred line in World of Warships, and in my opinion, which one is more OP, the Cleveland or the Megami? I got as far as the Cleveland in closed beta. I thought it was alright. I never quite got the it's OP thing, but I was probably playing it wrong, to be honest. But yeah, the American cruisers generally I've quite liked. I've started getting more into the American destroyers now we're in open beta, and I'm actually quite enjoying those. I have to say, when you're hunting down carriers, American destroyers with their superior turrets, I've actually had a way more successful time trying to get carriers with American destroyers than Japanese, because the Japanese, if a carrier sees you coming, they're going to send everything after you, and if you're busy dodging torpedoes in your Japanese destroyer, you can't keep the guns on them. So yeah, but yeah, I've been enjoying that, and otherwise, it's just cruisers and destroyers, and they're talking about buffing battleships. They are going to buff battleships, in fact, in the next Warships patch, but it kind of it's not fixing some of the fundamental problems. It's making life easier at close range, but all the rest of the stuff that I don't enjoy about battleships is still going to be there. So maybe eventually I'll get to battleships properly, but for the meantime, yeah, destroyers and mediums, cruisers. Well, they're kind of the mediums of World of Warships, you know what I mean. And lastly, Erwin Rommel himself. Apparently, I bet it is. I bet it's the real guy. Yeah, definitely. Raised from the dead and come back to comment on my YouTube channel. He asks, totally seriously, if the M3 Lee had the BL-10 at tier 7, would people use it? Well, probably. Yes, the BL-10 at tier 7. Can you imagine that? Even if it was on the M3 Lee. I actually kind of want to see a mashup of that now. That would be hilarious looking. So yeah, as much as I would like to see the BL-10 on the MX-40, on the Lee as well, you know, actually let's just give all the tier 4s the BL-10. Can you imagine that in April 1st game mode? Everybody running around with the BL-10 in tier 4 tags. That could be hilarious. Oh, anyway, who knows what they'll come up with. So, that's it for this time round. I think we've covered an interesting variety of topics, as ever. If you have any questions for the next one, just so I'm totally clear that it's not just a comment, actually stick question in front of what you want to ask, and you know, you can capitalize it or whatever, but just so I know that it is definitively a question for the next video, and hopefully I will get round to it in a space of time. Well, probably another 3 months at this rate. That seems to have been what I've kind of settled down to, but you never know. I might get super energized and make one in 2 months. Stranger things have happened. So, that's it for now. If you enjoyed this slice of, I don't even know what this is, but me answering silly questions with totally serious answers, you can hit the like button. You can leave any questions or other comments below. You can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.